I'm going to work on a couple of the problems from the homework from the book, and then a couple extra that I'm going to be assigning from the review, or for period E, I've already done the review. So this one has 3 terms, and I'm going to look first for the GCF. We always want to look for the GCF first. So if I look here, and here, and here, all my coefficients, I'm not able to factor any of those out, because 1, -6, and -72, the greatest common factor is 1. So if I look at the z's, I have 3 z's here, 2 here, and 1 here. So the greatest I can take out is 1 z. If I do that, I have z on the outside, factoring that out. I'll have z squared minus 6z minus 72 equals 0. We can't lose that z. We keep that there. So I have z. And now I'm going to be factoring this here. So I come up with the factors of 72 that are going to give me 6. And that's z minus 12 and z plus 6. So I look and I don't have anything that's to a squared power that I could try to factor. I'm going to just go ahead and find the zeros from here. So this alone is going to be 0. Here we have 12, and here we have -6. So I have 3 real zeros in this problem. Let's go to number 18. And number 18 has 4 terms. So if we have 4 terms, we know we're going to do some grouping. And once we group it into 2 sections, we're going to look at this first group and find what the greatest common factor of that is. The greatest common factor is x squared. And I'm going to write the part that's remaining with red. So if I have x cubed, I take out x squared. I'm left with x plus 1. And then I want another x plus 1, and I already have it, but I do have to factor out something. So if I factor out a 1, then I'm left with the x plus 1, which I actually wanted to match. So now that we have that matching set of x plus 1s, we'll write that out front. And I'll take the remaining piece, put that in its own set of parentheses. And this is all, we'll say, equal to 0. Equal to 0, equal to 0, equal to 0. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and solve. So x is equal to, well, this factor is easy. It's just going to be -1. And this one's going to be a little more difficult. So if we take it off to the side and we do x squared plus 1 equals 0, I have x squared equals -1. When I take the square root of each side, I have plus minus square root of -1. The negative sign, I use my I. Don't put the I in front of the plus and minus. It's got to come after. And I'm going to have I takes the negative out, and then the square root of 1. But the square root of 1 is just 1. So all I have is I. So here we have plus or minus I. So there's 1 real 0, and then there are 2 imaginary zeros. All right, let's look at another one. This is number 25 from the homework. And we see that we don't have 4 terms, so we can't group. If I look at all of them, I don't have a greatest common factor. And I have 3 terms, so it's a trinomial. And I have my 4th, I have a squared, and then I have just a constant term. So this one I'll be able to factor into a squared and a squared. That'll give me a to the 4th. And then I have plus 6 and plus 1. And I look here and I have a squared term, so I'm going to look to factor, but I can't because I have addition in here versus the subtraction. So each of these will have to be solved on their own. So a squared plus 6 equals 0. A squared plus 1 equals 0. So a squared equals -6. A equals plus or minus I square root of 6. And this one's going to be a squared equals -1. So a equals plus or minus I square root of 1. which we can write just a equals plus or minus I. So let's write those values. So a, let me erase that and make it blue. So a is going to be plus or minus I radical 6, and it's also going to be plus or minus I. So we have 4 imaginary roots here. So that means this graph never crosses the x-axis. All right, let's see the next one. This is number 33. It's from the review problems. And we're looking at this here, and I'm always looking for greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor of 18 and 50 is 2. And the greatest common factor of s to the third in s is s squared. Oh, sorry, s. S. And then I have 9s squared minus 25 when I factor. Here's a subtraction inside, so I can look to split it. So I want to break these two apart. So 9s squared will be 3s and 3s. Negative 25 will be minus 5 and plus 5, but you can also have plus 5 and minus 5 there. I don't have any more squared terms, so I can go ahead and solve for my zeros. So right here, we're just going to have 0. And then 3s minus 5 is going to turn into 5/3. This one will turn into negative 5/3. And for those of you that are still trying to figure out how to do that, we just take the 0 and we do our adding or subtracting first. So add 5 and then divide by 3. So s will be equal to 5/3. And that's how we did the other one as well. Going on to number 35 from the homework, or the review problems. We have 4. So 4 gets grouped into 2 and 2. I look for the greatest common factor here, m squared, and I'm left with m plus 6. So that's what I want to get out of this second group. I want to get an m plus 6. So what do I factor from a 4m to get a regular m? I take a negative 4 out, and I have m plus 6. Now here's my matching set, m plus 6. And then in my next parenthesis, I take m squared minus 4. I'm looking to split this up because I have a square and I have a negative, so I can definitely do that. So this m is going to be equal, well, actually I'm not solving for the zeros yet, m plus 6. And this one's broken up into 2 factors, m plus 2 and m minus 2. And now I have m equal to negative 6, negative 2, and 2. So there are 3 real zeros there. And the last problem we're going to look at is number 39. And you can see there's 4 terms here. So we're going to break them up into 2 and 2. And here we have a much higher number to take out. We can take out x to the 4th. And if I take out x to the 4th, I'm left with x squared minus 4. So I had 6 and I took 4 out, so I have 2. Minus, and I want to get an x squared, so I have to take out the negative 9, and I have x squared minus 4. And let's pull our similar factor out. So x squared minus 4. And then we have x to the 4th minus 9. All right, looks like I can factor. So x squared minus 4 is going to be x plus 2, x minus 2. And then x to the 4th minus 9 is one of those quadratic looking difference of 2 squares that we looked at. So I'll have x squared minus 3, x squared plus 3. And I look through again, these are all set. This one's got a negative and the square root, but I can't necessarily break that up into 2 pieces because I can't do something times itself equal to 3. So this is where we're set and done factoring, and I can start setting up my zeros. So this 0 here is negative 2. This one here is 2. And we got to work through this one. It ends up, let's do it on the side. So right here, We have x squared minus 3 equals 0. So x squared equals 3. X equals plus or minus the square root of 3. All right, then we'll do the other one in green. X squared plus 3 equals 0. So x squared equals negative 3. X equals plus or minus, this negative is going to be our I, and we have the square root of 3. So let's write all of those down below. We have plus or minus the square root of 3, and then plus or minus I, square root of 3. So if we look here at all the different options, these are the two real zeros. And then here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. This shows that I have 4 imaginary zeros.